Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Shoalo City Council to order. By roll call, see that all council members are present at this time. We'd like to welcome those of you who are with us here tonight in our council chambers, as well as those who may be watching at home by City 56 TV. I'd like to begin this meeting with an invocation. I've asked Vice Mayor Brent Hatch if he'd lead us in prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Crittenden. Those who'd like to join with us, please stand.
Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, as we come before Thee tonight in this regular meeting of the Shoalo City Council, we thank Thee for the opportunity to join together tonight and represent the citizenry of the city of Shoalo. We ask a blessing on this mountainside, that we would be blessed with rains before the fire season starts with us. We ask a blessing on those that are deployed, that they will be delivered safely to the arms of their family. Again, we thank Thee for the opportunity that we have to serve. We thank Thee for this beautiful mountain on which we live. We say this in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Crittenden. I'd like to begin this evening with a call to the public. Any citizen desiring to speak on a matter that's within the jurisdiction of the city council may do so at this time. Keep your comments to 3 minutes if possible there. This time we'd like to ask the Jarvis. They've asked to be able to share with us. So. Good evening, Mr. Jarvis.
Good evening, members, council. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to bring this information to the council for the city of Shoalo. On August, you've all been handed a flyer. On August 12th.
Slide over and you'll pick up that mic a little better.
Okay.
If you can.
On August 12th, we have set up a Veterans Resource Fair, which is a one-day event to help the homeless and distressed veterans in the White Mountains. And the city of Shoalo has allowed us to use the old gym, which is right up the road. So we're going to do it. Some of the key people that are going to be here are the Arizona Coalition to End Homelessness, which is Director Shane Cohen. The Veterans Court, where you have a representative from the Veterans Court, is going to be there to help veterans with legal issues. The Shoalo and Phoenix VAs will be here, including a transportation vans to help veterans get to this resource fair from the outlying areas. Because it's not just Shoalo, it's the whole White Mountains. There's a lot of homeless and distressed veterans that need our help. And the Arizona, a gentleman by the name of Bill Shaho, from the Arizona Republic, who does the Veterans Voice, he's going to be there, and we have a lot of resources coming in and a lot of people making promises to us for August 19th. And I would like to invite the council to come and see what we do. It's one day. The doors will be open at 8 o'clock, but we won't be open in, that's for us to set up, but we'll be open at 9 a.m. and be done at 3 p.m. So if the council wants to find out what Fishers of Men does for veterans, please come and see what we do. We invite you all.
Yeah, that's on August the 12th, correct?
August 12th, it's a Saturday.
Okay, great.
Any questions?
Questions, comments? Thanks for sharing that with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else on call to the public? Seeing no one else moved, I'll close call to the public and come back to tonight. We have special events. We have a presentation of fire forecasts. Man, that's good. We're going to know exactly when the next fire is and emergency preparedness. So, Mr. Webb, thank you.
Mayor Seymour, Vice Mayor Hatch, councilors, city staff, thanks for the opportunity to come in and talk to you about this stuff. And what we have here is our Ready, Set, Go program, which we also include some of the weather forecast. The slide you can see there before you now is our current. So the dark blue line shows where the moisture levels and you can see where it's climbing up there and things are drying out. So yeah, we did have a significant amount of moisture over the winter, but the winds, if we can figure out how to turn those off, would be very beneficial. Still working on that. But the top line there shows the overall highs, and so we haven't surpassed and met any new records at this point this year. So things are looking okay, but you can see we're in that 90th percentile, which that's starting to get into that danger level. These next slides here are just going to show some of the drought severity indexed across the whole United States, and we're actually looking at kind of a normal from coming out of the winter that we had, and we're in kind of a normal as far as fire season right now. But as you look at the observed fire danger, most of the state is not too bad, but you see areas where we're in the area where we got a little bit of green, but some of the yellow. So we're in that moderate to high range for the observed fire danger. And this is the forecast. So, and you can see the area that we're in the state of Arizona there, that the forecast is looking pretty decent. We're in that moderate range. And there's some more of for June, we're looking at, we're right on the border of where you're going to have the significant wildland fire, which is typically when we start getting into our fire season is the first part of June and through June and until the summer rains hit. So we are looking at we're right on that borderline of where things are going to be. So as far as being able to tell you exactly how things are going to happen, yeah, good luck with that. But
Good job.
I'm working on that.
Come on, Kurt.
So, but as we get through into July and August, it kind of mellows out again, and we get back into our normal fire season. And so things are looking pretty decent for the majority of the summer. This slide here just shows you kind of what we look at different. This is the 10-hour fuels, which is your small diameter things, sticks, wood that's on the ground, and the moisture levels there they're pretty dry. They're very little moisture. So this is where one of the things that we look at when we kind of determine our fire levels and danger levels is what the fuel moisture is inside the fuels that are laying on the ground. So the 10-hour fuels are pretty dry. Once you get into the 100-hour fuels, they get a little bit more moisture into them, and that's so. Those are the things that we're looking at when they start to determine what the when you look at the signs that we have out there for the danger level, and right now we've been kind of bouncing back and forth between high and moderate. So these little storms we get coming through have been helping us keep down into that moderate level. And so even though we may have days where we have the red flags warnings, it's not, there's two different things that they're looking at. The weather conditions may cause us to go into a red flag, but the moisture levels of the fuels is what we look at to determine the actual danger level of the fire danger. So when we talk about the Ready, Set, Go, and just real briefly, I just want to kind of cover this. This is an education program that we have available that we would be happy to take it to any group, organization, civic group, church group, doesn't really matter. We want to get the education out there because one of the things that we believe strongly in, that prevention begins with education. If you don't know how to protect your home and what the things to do around your home, you're not going to be able to protect and adequately make your home defensible. So this is a program that we're willing to take out into the community, and we've done quite a bit of these, and we still want to keep doing them because it's not a matter of if, but when. We live in the forest. So, and unfortunately, misconception out there is when you have a lot of trees, that's a healthy forest, and that's not the case. You know, we still having a hard time convincing people that they need to thin out their trees in order to have a healthy forest. Healthy forest is what it makes it more defensible to fire. And these are some of the things that we're looking for that we go and educate is what is that defensible space around your home, and what are some of the things, how your home is constructed is what makes it more defensible. In this picture here, you can see that this is in a property that was in the process of being cleared. Those ladder fuels is what we will try to eliminate. And this is kind of more of a type of a property that you want that we're looking for, which is more of a healthy forest atmosphere in this situation here. One of the things that we use very heavily coming in fact, throughout the year is our 311 information hotline. And we encourage people when they're looking for information of what's going on, regardless of whether it's forest fires or any kind of emergency. Navajo County, Apache County, this is our system that we use to have accurate information going out. Now, granted, this isn't as quick as what social media might get out, but you're going to find correct information in this website. You can also go to the website, or there's ways that you can get Twitter feeds, or there's lots. So when you go to the 311info.net, there's a tab on there that gives you lots of different ways to be able to connect and to get the information coming from 311, or from your cell phones, or a landline phone, you just dial 311 direct. Cell phones, a cell one phone, you dial star 311, and a Verizon phone, it's pound 311. And it'll get you, and you'll hear the recorded message of current information that's on that website. What used to be our reverse 911 system through the county has now been replaced as of July of 2015, and it's called the Ready Navajo County. And we encourage everybody to go and sign up for this, because this is a way that we can actually make notifications like we did last year during the Cedar Fire, letting people know that, hey, we're looking to go into pre-evacuation, be prepared. And so this is a great way to receive the information directly from our county emergency managers. And I took a picture of kind of what was a screenshot of what you can look at when you pull up the 311 website. This is kind of what you'll see at the top there. And then the Ready Navajo County, you'll see this. So you get a little bit of familiarity of what to kind of look for, so you know you're in the right place. As far as that, if you want to keep our forest happy and healthy, this is, we're happy to come out and do some education. So I don't know if you have any questions or.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to think of how to word this, because I don't want to be taken wrong, but I'm thinking of a citizen who really, really scolded me because the city didn't have better laws about their irresponsible neighbors that she pointed out to me, who had simply picked up their pine needles with a pitchfork running under them. And they hadn't raked vigorously to take all that black mulch and throw it away. So they were down to the dirt. And I told her I had read a pamphlet put out by the forestry department that probably her neighbor had done the right thing by picking up the pine needles with a pitchfork and leaving that black mulch. I don't know what your opinion is. I'm sticking my neck out here because I haven't tested you ahead of time. But in conjunction with that, I want our people to take wildfire serious. But I also don't want them to panic because a neighbor has not complied and may have a pine tree that's actually close to the house and overhanging the house. Should that house catch on fire and crown out that tree, from your experience, and I need to ask, how long have you been on our fire department here?
I started with the Lakeside Fire District back in the late 90s, or actually it was 94.
So I'll say in the last 5 years, since that would well encompass your time,
Absolutely.
how many fires in town, originating in town, where a structure catches on fire and crowns the trees around it, have you known where we lost the adjacent houses?
From what I can recall, I would have to go back and find out exactly, but as in my experience, typically we have a pretty good response that we're not losing multiple structures from a single house fire that starts as a house fire and gets into the trees.
Right.
And here again, that's a whole nother discussion when we're talking about, what you can do, because just because there's a tree up next to the house, does that make that unsafe? No, there's ways, there's things that we're going to look at. One of the things we do offer if they want to call up and schedule for us to come out and walk their property and offer suggestions of what they can do best to help make their home more defensible, we're glad to do that. We'll send the crews out, or that may be something that I do as well. And we will walk, because each property is, will be different, and because everything's unique.
Thank you. Well, that was my understanding, and I tried to give this lady some comfort, and I pretty sure I didn't have any success. I understood that if we have a fire approaching our city on a multi-mile front, that we're gonna lose a bunch of houses, okay? It is very possible, but a fire starting in her neighbor down the street a ways, it's not likely that her house will burn from our previous experience of you folks being able to get there and save adjacent structures. So, did I accomplish what I wanted to? I don't know. I want people to take wildfire serious, but I don't want them laying awake night mad at your neighbor, angry to the extent that she's angry at the city council because we're not doing something about that.
And I think there again, that goes back to that education component. I think once they have received some education and understand, one, how fire works, how your house is built, and what is in your surrounding area, that can create some calmness too. And we'd be happy to come out and help provide some of that education.
Thank you.
Councilmember Alsop.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Webb, question, if people do call and they want you to come out, is there going to be any type of charge or any type of, if something's wrong and you ask them to correct it, and if they don't correct it, is there any fines or anything? We want to make the people understand that.
Yeah,
they're not gonna get
absolutely.
gig for all
No,
this stuff.
because we have no enforcement rights when it comes to residential properties and things like that. So we just want to provide that education. And yeah, it does it encompasses a whole subdivisions and communities at that point. So just because one person cleans up their property, are they affected by their neighbors? Yeah, they can be.
Sure.
And that's where we want to, one of the things that we're working on is trying to go into subdivisions and get them to be what we call fire adapted communities. And that's actually a national recognized recognition that they receive. And they're in the process and working on creating that healthy forest that becomes a more defensible space.
Thank you.
Thank you indeed.
Any other questions? Mr. Webb, we appreciate your insight tonight and sharing that with us there.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item we have is a presentation of changes to the fiscal year 2018 recommended budget and draft tentative budget for the year ending June 30th, 2018. Mr. Justin Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As the mayor stated, we have tonight prepared the draft tentative, and when we last met in budget study session on April 20th, the council had directed us to make a couple of minor changes to the budget that was presented at that time, which was the recommended budget. And then we also have to evaluate our project status and decide which projects we're going to need to carry forward into the next budget year. So what we have tonight is just kind of a summary of those changes that were made to the recommended budget. This is just an overview of the process we've been through to get to this point. We've had multiple town halls and study sessions to get to where we are tonight with the draft tentative. Looking forward, we have the tentative budget adoption coming up June 6th, which will be our next regularly scheduled council meeting, and then our final budget adoption 2 weeks after that on June 20th, with our final budget meeting to adopt the secondary tax rate for the Streetlight Improvement District on July 18th. This slide gives us a chart of comparing our expenditures in the budget to what we've actually spent in years past. And you'll see that in all cases, we've always underspent what our budgeted expenditures are. And we project that we will do the same for fiscal year 17, which ends on June 30th of this year. Getting into the revenue side, when we adopt a budget, we are talking expenses, but we also have to build into the budget our revenues. So for fiscal year 18, when we presented the recommended budget, we were at $56,529,000. For tonight's presentation, we'll show the modifications of 2.2 million to bring our revenue total to 58.8 million. And as a reminder, we do have unbudgeted reserves. Some of this is statutory. For the general fund, we're legally required to have a $1 million reserve. We've got that built up to $3 million. And then for our other enterprise funds and our debt reserves, we have some reserves built there as well. And additionally, for the future, potentially the future water treatment plant, we have $1.2 million in reserve for that. This slide gives you the totals for the changes on our fund balance when we're looking at which projects are going to potentially carry over. We also update our revenues, and you'll see the change there on the top line item for fund balance. That's the amount of money we have in each fund carrying forward to the next year. And that one's hard to nail down exactly, but we'll try to get as close as we can. But you can see that the revenues, because of project carryovers, will increase the fund balance. And some of our estimates were low on revenues too, so we've adjusted those, and that's why you see a positive increase there. With our operating transfers, that has to do with that same item as well. On the expenditure side, we have $1.7 million in modifications to the recommended for the draft tentative tonight. Next couple of slides have the detail, and I won't read all of these, but just to give you an example of how this slide's working, when we brought the recommended budget, on the first item for the streets, R&R, we had a approved or a recommended budget of $475,000. We feel like we're gonna have about $200,000 of this year's budget remaining, so we plan to push that forward into the fiscal year 18 budget, which will give us a tentative budget of $675,000. And that's kind of how this process works. We look at the projects. If we feel like we're not going to complete them, or we've got them partially complete, then we try to gauge that number, working with the public works and facilities groups to get those numbers estimated as close as possible. Any questions on any of these projects? I know it's kind of a long list. Next slide is other things that we've been working on. First example on here was the Christmas lights, something we didn't complete this year, so we've made some changes to that budget to get it to $50,900. And then on the development impact fees, you'll see those in a couple of line items with the library and the wastewater. Those are changes made to those accounts as well. And then on the last one, our water rights acquisition, we're tracking those fees that we collect very closely, and any fees that we don't spend for our water rights protection, we'll make sure and push those forward into the next year. So for this slide, a total of $464,950 in changes. In closing, just a refresher, we try to look at these expenditures throughout the year, and as we get close to the end of the year, try to make estimates and reevaluate with both expenditures and revenues, try and get as current as we can. We have built a conservative budget as we have in years past. We feel like the numbers we've presented to the council will leave us some room for unforeseen items. And then the last item we have is something we haven't built into the budget, but we're prepared to address if we need to with the building department, with the hospital's large expansion going on. As that project gets moving, we feel like we can address personnel when that point comes, but we're not sure what the timeline is yet. We've had some meetings, Mr. Tregaskis and Mr. Mutter have met with them, but we're still not sure exactly what the schedule is. So, any questions for me?
Just thank you for your time
Yeah.
and everything, putting it together. You and your
Appreciate
staff.
it, Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Next item on is the consent calendar. Is there any items that need to be pulled to be discussed? Councilmember Kelly?
I have a question only on item D. I don't,
You want to go ahead and ask that question?
well, sure, if that's appropriate. I know years ago, we had our local auction and we found that it netted the city a better position if we used this service out of Phoenix. I assume we're still doing that. Is that true or not? I asked staff.
We've, yeah, you're thinking a couple times ago, we used to, after we did our local auction, we used to haul everything down to Phoenix. We're now on an online auction system where everything stays here. And once the auction's complete, the winner of the auction needs to come up here and pick their items up.
I thank you for that change. The specific thing that brought that to my attention was a car with a blown engine, and if we transported it to Phoenix, that would cost us more than a car would bid, I would suspect. Thank you for that change.
It's proven to be a good system, the one we have now.
Any other items need to be, or questions on that, other items? Okay, I'll go through the items that we have on the consent calendar. We have a consideration of amendment to intergovernmental agreement with Navajo County for court collections and criminal justice system services. We have a consideration of the second addendum to a commercial hangar lease and operating agreement with Aero Products Components. We also have a consideration of a second addendum to Victor 190 hangars, non-commercial ground lease. We have a consideration of approval of declarations of surplus property for May 2017 auction. And we have the minutes from the May 2nd, 2017 council meeting. Councilmember Kelly.
I have another question.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, I noticed an absence of anything from Public Works on surplus auction. Is that accurate, or did we lose a page? It's accurate, thank you.
Councilmember Crittenden.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Motion second by Councilmember Alsop. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item is new business, consideration of application submitted by Darius Gibbons on behalf of Medieval Hyam Historical Arts Foundation for a special events liquor license for Battle of the Bands, Battle of the Food Vans on September 2nd at the Frontier Fields. Ms. Kurosaki.
Thank you, Mayor. Darius Gibbons, who represents the Medieval Mayhem Historical Arts Foundation, submitted an application for a special event liquor license for a new event, and it will be held at the Frontier Fields on September 2nd. It's called Battle of the Bands and Battle of the Food Vans. This is an inaugural event, and it is co-sponsored by Show Main Street and Medieval Mayhem. It will start on that Saturday at 11 a.m. and at 9 p.m. The proceeds from the event will benefit both organizations. And for Medieval Mayhem, it is the scholarship fund that will earn those proceeds. The license will allow the foundation to sell beer and wine during the event, and the event participants will enter and leave the fields through one entrance. And in addition, an existing 6-foot chain link fence surrounds the entire field. The alcohol, there's a map attached. The alcohol will be sold in the area marked saloon. Although the participants will be allowed to consume the alcohol throughout the fields, there is also a children's area, a kids area. It will be surrounded by temporary fencing. It will be posted with no alcohol signs, and the access will be monitored by security personnel who will be stationed at the entrance to it. Additional security personnel will be stationed at the one main entrance and exit to the fields to ensure that no alcohol either leaves or is brought into the fields. And in addition, there will be security personnel patrolling the entire area around the fields to ensure there is no underage consumption. We asked the police department to perform a background check on the applicant and found nothing amiss, and And so it is up to the council to approve or deny the application. This is a special event liquor license, so the council's action is final, although we will, the application still must be submitted to the Department of Liquor Control. As you can see, Ms. Gibbons is here in case you have any questions, and Sandy Morgan is here representing Shoalo Main Street, should you have any questions of the applicant about the license or the event.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Look for a motion. Councilmember Leach.
I move to approve the application submitted by Darius Gibbons for a special event liquor license for the Battle of the Bands / Battle of Food Vans on September 2nd at Frontier Field.
We have a motion, second by Councilmember Alsop. Any discussion, Councilmember Kelly?
Yes, thank you. I believe I've observed a serious increase in the number of these applications coming before us. And quite a few of them take place on city-owned property. I understand selling alcohol raises money, and I haven't had any of them bring an application to us that said it's not for a good cause. I imagine, without knowing facts, that most of us sitting in this room right now have lost good friends or family members to abuse of alcohol, drunk driving. I've read recently the driving under the influence is changing to where drugs are a higher frequency now than even alcohol. That's not because the frequency of driving under the influence of alcohol has decreased. I'm thinking, as sitting here tonight, that I cannot in good faith vote favorably for any of these special use alcohol licenses. I may change my mind, I may not, but I plan to vote no on these tonight. We have several. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just share with you along those same lines. I have no problem if you guys were to designate a, what's it called, a beer garden or an alcohol garden, and the alcohol was consumed there. I have a hard time thinking that you can control the size of the Frontier Field and to make sure that there's no consumption of alcohol by a minor, or that somebody else who's intoxicated already is coming up and buying it and giving it to another person, you know, because he's not selling it. So that's an issue that I have. I've always said that I'll approve the ones that are off the city limits, city properties, but the ones on the city properties, I've always stood my case that we really need to designate a beer garden for those activities. So this isn't as such, so I will probably vote oppose as well. Any other comments? Councilmember Alsop.
I got a question. And this went through the police department and everything else. Has there been any, I think this is the first time this to have an application, but has there been anything that has happened to anybody coming off any of these fields or any of these things that we've had with liquor on it before where somebody's got killed or hurt or anything? I mean, I know the potential's there, but has the police report ever has come out and said anything's been happened by any of these alcohol things that's been on our problem?
No, I don't know if there's a correlation. What we do is, what the police department does, they do a background check on the applicant. And obviously, if they find anything attached to a particular event, but whether someone may be intoxicated and cause an accident, where that person originated, you know, I don't know if the police, we don't ask them to track that, and they've never reported that to us, but I'm sure we do. If there's a specific event, they'll let us know if there are any issues.
And I guess my question then would be to the ladies up here in front. Do we have enough people in there that's going to patrol the area? You have off-duty police officers, security people, any of that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
I produced the Renaissance Fair over in Pine Top Lakeside. We're going into our 10th year of production. 8 of those years, we've had a special permit alcohol license. We have never had an incident from serving the public. We have approximately 8 to 10 security on site, and we've never had an underage drinking incident. We've never had a leaving the property incident. None of that has occurred. And we are also in talks with the sheriff's posse to be part of our security team to ensure that that does not happen.
Let me ask you a few, because you host the event and you served alcohol and somebody left there and they had an accident, who's going to be liable?
We would be liable technically, yes.
Yeah, but
By
not
letter
they-
of the law, we are liable.
You have enough coverage for that?
Yes, we get, I think it's $1 million. It's
They
either $1
sued
million
you-
or $2
If
million.
they sued you for $5 million?
Then I'm losing my house, my home, and everything else.
Point taken, thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Councilman, Vice Mayor?
Has any consideration been given to closing down the drinking before 9 o'clock?
Yes, sir. We will close down serving of alcohol at 8 o'clock to ensure that there's an hour's time between then and the time that the event closes for people to sober up before they leave. Also, all of our servers have to be certified. So everybody will be certified that's there. They know how to check IDs. They know how to tell when someone's too intoxicated, and they will have the power to cut them off. And we will have the means to have them removed from the property, whether that's with the police and having them have a family member come to pick them up, or whether we get a cab for them and get them home safely.
So would we amend the agreement to be 8 o'clock PM instead of 9?
Well, the event will still go till 9, it's just they're serving that they're going to stop
Our
at
serving
8
would
o'clock.
stop at 8.
Any other comments, questions? No, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 4-3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item we have is Christmas Kids, consideration of application submitted by Aaron Konchova on behalf of Christmas for Kids for a special event liquor license for a series of events at White Mountain Speedway Park. Ms. Kurosaki.
Thank you, Mayor. Aaron Konchova, on behalf of Christmas for Kids, which is a nonprofit that he operates, submitted applications for special event liquor licenses for a series of 10 weekend events from June through August at White Mountain Speedway Park, which was formerly known as Thunder Raceway, which is east of, or kind of across the airport. Mr. Konchova received authorization from David Phipps, who is the new operator of the Speedway, to hold these events, and we did attach that to his application. For state law, a charitable organization, in this case Christmas for Kids, is allowed a maximum of 10 events per year, from which it can receive proceeds through a special event liquor license. A separate application is required for each event, and just for an explanation, consecutive days equal 1 event. So actually, if you count the number of days, it exceeds 10, but because they're Saturdays, Sundays, it's considered 1 event. Mr. Konchova did submit duplicate applications. However, the only change is the times and the dates are different. And what I showed on the staff summary is a list of the times and the days from June through August that are included on the applications. The Speedway property itself has 1 entrance where the ticket booth is located and 1 exit. And trained security personnel, according to the applicant, will be stationed at both accesses. The entire property is surrounded by an 8-foot fence and barriers. The license would allow Mr. Konchova to sell beer and wine, and it will be sold in the area that's marked beer and wine on the map, although the participants will be allowed to consume the alcohol throughout the Speedway. Additional security personnel will also be on hand to patrol the premises to make sure no alcohol is brought in or leaves the premises, and that there's no underage consumption. We asked the police department to perform a background check, and on Mr. Conchova, they came back to us that they don't see anything that would preclude your approving it tonight. As again, with the previous item, your decision would be final, and it will be, the applications would be submitted to the Department of Liquor Licenses and Control.
Mayor, I need to
You can see our here.
put a conflict of interest on this. I was okay until a family member walked up with this thing here, so I better not vote on this.
Excuse me?
I need to declare a conflict of interest on this.
Okay, that's fine. You want to just slide back? That's fine.
Okay, as you can see, the applicant and Mr. Phipps, the operator, is here in case you have any questions of them.
Thank you. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Good.
You guys
All
pretty
right.
busy, I see.
So help me understand about this. You're going to raise money basically from that night, and then how do you help the kids here for, what does it go to, your cause? Share a little bit about the Christmas for Kids.
For the Series 15 liquor license, it's actually required by the state that a minimum 25% of the gross sales go to the whichever might be applying for it. So actually, we've gone to 30%. What we're doing of the gross sales is going directly to Christmas for Kids, which I started, I guess it was 10 years ago, Christmas for Kids up here, when I learned that all these toy collections and everything, nothing 100% stayed on the mountain. And I like, well, we need something up here. So got Christmas for Kids, 100% stays on the mountain. We use the fire department, police department, the newspaper, radio, Modified Motorcycle Association helps out a lot to spread everything around. And it's so 30% of the gross sales will go directly to that fund.
So when you give gifts for the kids, then are those gifts purchased here locally?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Any other questions, comments?
I have a real quick one.
Okay.
So I know they sell beer there now. So while it's kind of being sold in the same place, just the proceeds are going to this, period. You're not going to have like another sales for the racetrack going on somewhere else.
Correct. This will be the only sales going on.
This time I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I will,
Okay, Councilmember Leach.
if I can read it. I move to approve the application submitted by Aaron Keno, on behalf of Christmas for Kids for a special liquor license for a series of weekends events in June through August at White Mountain Speedway Park, 4701 East Dusa Club, Sholo, with the added stipulation that the Sholo Police Department has the authority to cease any and current and future operations should any problems occur at these events.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Crinton. Any other discussion? I'll just share, I'll probably vote in favor of this because you already serve alcohol there, and it isn't anything that you're not currently doing. You're just having some special events, and so, and it's not on city property. So that's where my line, I draw the differentiation there. Okay.
Thank you.
And I want to make a comment too. I think it's a good idea, but if they're going to sell it there, I agree. But now they're selling it there, but putting money toward the kids. So
Good thing.
just makes sense. They should do that every weekend though.
We're working on it.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that pass 5 to 1, sorry. Thank you. Guys, good luck, okay?
Thank you, Jim,
Gotta
very
report
much.
back every once in a while how well it's going, okay?
Will do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next item we have is item 8C, consideration of rescission of abandonment of a condominium plats at Tanaka Resort Casitas approved by the council November 17, 2015. Mr. Tragaskis.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This one's a little bit different. I don't think we've done one of these, if ever.
No, it's the first.
A little bit of background information. On February 21st of 2006, the City Council approved the final plat for Tonka Resort Casitas at Bison Ridge. Subject property is shown on the display that you have in front of you. That plat was subsequently recorded in Navajo County. This development allowed for constructing, and this is a clarification, 9 buildings, not 8, 9 buildings, each housing 8 condominiums for a total of 72 condominium units. Since that time, 2 buildings housing a total of 16 condominiums have been constructed. You can see those on the aerial photo here. This is one building containing 8 condominiums, and then we have another building directly to the south also containing 8 condominiums. You can see the area outlined in red has 7 additional condominium boxes there. That's where the buildings never were constructed. So if you drive by there today, you're going to see just a flat area with no buildings. So those buildings were proposed to house 56 condominiums. At the request of the owner of the condominiums, the council voted to revert the acreage to the unbuilt condominium units at its regular meeting of November 17th, 2015. So in 2015, the council voted to basically take these boxes that are shown on the plat and dissolve those boxes so they no longer existed on paper. And that was done for several reasons. I think the primary reason being they were being taxed on those boxes of air that those condominiums were comprised of. Since that time, the homeowners association and the property owner have discussed potential issues relative to the abandonment and tract B of the development. So if I can go here, we can see this is what was approved by the council back in 2015. We have tract B, which has the existing buildings as part of that tract. We also have this area down here, which was shown as parcel A. Originally, that also was part of tract B. So tract B was this area here, plus this area, undeveloped area down in parcel A. Both parties have agreed that the best resolution would be to revert the abandonment back to the original plat. Any future development of this property would be required to comply with the underlying zoning. No public roadways or utilities are affected by this request. Essentially what this is, you know, when you were kids and you were playing a game, this is a do-over. They went through the process at the request of the condominium owner, who requested that the condominiums be abandoned, that those no longer exist on paper. That was approved by council. Turns out that there was a little bit, some issues between that property owner and the owner of what is Tract B, which is the Bison Homeowners Association. And so in order to address those and be able to move forward, they're asking to just put the plat back in place as it existed prior to the action by council on November 17th of 2015. So if the council so chooses and votes in favor, essentially that plat will be back in effect just as it was on November 16th of 2015. With that, I'm available for questions.
What property of Tract B that's in Tract A would they have retained now, or if we removed it? I mean, are they just saying that they would have still owned the circumference of the common area, or?
If I can go back, so originally the entire plat, you can see this was the 9 buildings that they originally proposed. Tract B was surrounding all of the 9 buildings. Okay. With this action tonight, basically those condominium boxes would be back in place, and this Tract B would be contiguous with all the rights and privileges for the homeowners that existed prior to November 17th of 2015.
But they just will not own where that space is that would be built. Is that correct? Is that
correct?
The
applicant who originally proposed this back in 2015 would still own where these condominiums are proposed to be.
Councilmember Alsop.
Is it fair to ask who is Tonka Resorts Casitas? Who owns it? Who's doing it?
And I'm going to go to the actual agreement. Mr. John Lassen is the individual who represents the condominiums as the owners. Again, so that's for the actual condominiums themselves. The undeveloped portion, which is Tract B, has been dedicated to the Bison Homeowners Association. So that essentially is under control of the association of homeowners within Bison. It's not any one individual or corporation other than the Bison homeowners.
So the only thing we did is 2015, we gave them a free tax write-off for a couple of years, and then now they're coming back in again.
Essentially, that's they didn't actually record that until I think February or so. So you may have only given them 1 year.
Member Kelly.
Yeah. Is it at least your understanding that they contemplate putting these condominiums up now? Or leaving this open space, or?
I'm going to go back a slide or two because it's a little bit easier to, I think, illustrate. My understanding right now is that Mr. Lassen does not have current intent to construct those condominiums. We've seen some pretty big strides in our real estate market here in even just this calendar year. This would give him the ability to construct those condominiums just as he was approved prior. He also could choose not to construct those condominiums and just have a recorded plat for a vacant piece of property.
But he no longer owns it?
He owns the condominium. You can't even really call it a footprint because condominiums, you don't own the dirt. You own the ability to build boxes above the dirt. He owns that ability, or would, with what you guys are what's proposed before you this evening. He would be able to construct those condominiums as was previously approved and proposed. The remaining portion of what was Tract B would be retained by the homeowners association, just as it was previously, as open space, you walk your dog, that type of thing on it.
I'm just not familiar with tax law enough to understand how they were hitting him so hard because something was contemplated, but I don't deny it. And caught with the economy, I personally don't have any problem with giving somebody some relief, but if he only recorded it a month ago, he didn't get the relief anyhow.
The recording was done in February of 2016. I apologize, I didn't make that clear previously.
Okay, well, whatever, yeah.
Any other questions? Vice Mayor.
Yes, Justin, what's the status of the utilities to those footprints of the future condominiums or what?
Our understanding is that the utilities are in. Essentially, this is a build-ready site. If Mr. Lassen chose to come forward, again, following approval by the council this evening, he would have the ability to submit building plans and move forward with construction if he so choose or chose to do so. I'm not aware that there really is any significant utility requirements. From my understanding, everything has been put in at this point.
Councilmember Crittenden.
I'm ready to make a motion if you're ready.
You may go ahead.
I move to rescind the abandonment of the Tonka Resort Casitas condominium plat approved by the City Council on November 17th, 2015, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement for rescission. Did I pronounce that correctly?
I believe.
Oh,
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Kelly. Any other discussion? Councilmember Alsop.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, okay, let's get back to where we were before. If we voted on this on November 17th, 2015, and it took him until January or February of 16 to do it, does this automatically go where he has to enroll this in the tax? I guess I'm asking Morgan. Does he have to roll this? Does he have a time frame where he has to enroll this back into the tax frame?
What would happen is this document would be recorded, and I'm assuming that they want to record
So it's gonna go back in a lot faster than it came out then. Okay.
Any other comments? Seeing no other, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Chakouskis.
Thank you.
Next item we have is item 8D, which is consideration of resolution R 2017-17, approving and authorizing intergovernmental agreement regarding regional special response team. Mr. Brown.
Mayor and Council, I'm filling in for Chief Shelley, who's in Washington DC right now, so
Okay.
I'll try to answer the questions the best that I can. The Charlotte Police Department has played an instrumental role in forming, overseeing, and coordinating the cooperative efforts of the Special Response Team. Over the last 2 years, the SRT team has evolved to become a regional special response team that responds to critical events in the region. Many of these events require more resources than any one department in the region can provide. This agreement will allow the city to decrease the overall training burden on the Charlotte Police Department, increase the pool of available and qualified officers, and increase the likelihood of grant funding based on the multi-agency format. Municipal risk pool and county risk pool agree with this revision and have provided joint defense agreements in the event of any litigation. All agencies are committed to having at least one member on the team with the proper equipment. Grants have already been provided for training equipment. Recent team deployments have included the Winslow area, Shoalo, Heber area, Eager, and other areas in Apache and Navajo counties. In order to reduce the city's risk exposure, staff has drafted this attached intergovernmental agreement related to the services offered by the SRT team. All agencies in the county are being asked to sign the agreement that outlines call-out procedures held by the agencies with officers on the team and other considerations. So those that were at the Mayor and Council Members Association meeting last month, I talked a little bit about this. This has been kind of an ongoing effort over the last several months to get all police agencies in the region on board with this. That includes all the municipalities and the 2 counties. And in the past, we've had some on board, but some aren't. But yet, we still respond when they have emergencies because that's how we do it up here. We help people. But there's a lot of underlying legal liabilities and risks that are associated with that. So what we want to do is get everybody on board. It's amazing that so you wouldn't think of us as the trendsetters up here in this area, but with this agreement, it's the only one in the state of Arizona that's really got the county risk pool and the municipal risk pool on board to do a joint defense agreement. I'll try to explain basically what that is in a few brief sentences for you, but a lot of times when you have multiple agencies and they respond to these high-risk situations, it's almost always there's some kind of litigation that evolves out of it. And in the past, what you would have is City of Shoalo would have to go hire an attorney to represent them if we got sued. The county would hire an attorney, and before you know it, you got 8 attorneys all cranking out these bills, and it's costing all these agencies a lot of money. The joint defense agreement, you all agree ahead of time that if there's a lawsuit, you just hire one attorney to represent all the entities in common, so that saves a lot on the defense costs. And the county and municipal risk pools are real, I think, excited about that to reduce their costs and exposure as well. So that's one benefit of this agreement. The other benefit of the agreement, and I apologize, I don't think made it into your packets, but you have it before you there. There's just a couple of changes to the agreement that was done in 2012. And what those changes are is that each agency that signs up has to have at least one member on the team with the proper equipment. In the past, it felt like the fellow was providing most of the officers. Now each agency has to provide at least one with the proper equipment. Another change in there is that even though, for example, maybe we respond to Winslow, the Winslow, whoever is on site there is still the commander of the incident. So whether you go to Winslow or you come here, it's wherever the agency is that you're responding to is still the commanding part of the group in the incident. The SRT team is just there to support them and to help them through whatever situation they're in. may also have a question in mind that, well, what if we have an event going on here and then Winslow calls us, we got something going on there, do we have to send and we don't. There's nothing in here that obligates us to send our people there if we have issues or our own emergency here. It's only if we can spare the officers to go there. So we're, hopefully you'll see this on most of I think some municipalities have already passed it. I know Navajo County is passing it next week. And by the end of the month, we hope to have it all in place. And we feel like it's really going to be a great benefit up here. We just don't have the manpower in these individual smaller towns or agencies to deal with some of these high-risk situations. And this will allow us to coordinate our efforts and save money and get the grants that we need to protect our citizens. It's in just the last several years, you can probably think in your own mind of several incidences that have happened, and we just feel like this will better coordinate those responses and get everybody safely through it. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for that explanation. Councilmember Leach.
So all these people you have listed on this, your comment before said that you're still working on getting them on board, but all the ones you have listed on here already signed up for it?
Well, they're all approving it like you are this month. Some, I think Snowflake Taylor has already done it, Apache County, and then I know when we had our meeting last month, they all committed to do it. Everybody was on board and said they wanted to do it.
Oh, that brings me to my next question then. So if one of them or two of them don't, you gonna bring it back to us again? Or what do we do from there?
Well, that's a good question, but if they don't, then I guess we'd have to bring it back and just say that they chose not to do it. But before we brought it forward to you, we made each one of them commit that they were going to do it. And they
Well,
said that they
I
were.
agree with that, but there's been a few things that we've done around the community that they've committed, and we go to put it out and they said, nah, never mind. So I think if a couple of these bail out, I'd sure like to bring it back.
Oh yeah, we'll let you know for sure.
Any other questions, comments? Of the audience, we have a question.
Mr. Brown,
Can you come up to the stand here, please? Give your name and identify yourself, please.
Thank you. I'm Laura Singleton with the White Mountain Independent. And my question is if Mr. Brown could give a very simplistic example of some kind of issue that the special response team would, one of these groups would respond to where there might be litigation involved. Even if
The special response team doesn't, respond to things like serving warrants or just routine things. This would be a situation where, for example, you have a hostage situation. Somebody's maybe holed up in a house that has weapons and a hostage, then you need to call in the special response team to deal with that issue. And you're all familiar with what hits the news. Whenever somebody is in that situation and you have to basically go in to protect the public and may end up shooting or killing someone, then litigation involves. That's just the way it is. So.
Okay, so it's really more specific to police response versus the preparedness that Apache County is working on, the preparedness plans, that more for natural disasters. This is more localized police incident.
Right, this has nothing to do with natural disasters. These are.
That even though we're adding $135,000, we're still way under budget, so I like that. I think that's what we've been telling the people, that we're gonna build this under budget, and that's what we're sticking our guns to. So I just want to thank you for doing that, and even with that 135, we're still there. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Leach.
Ditto.
Anyone else?
Same.
I always like staying under budget, but I've watched a lot of remodel shows and they go way over budget on $50,000 things. So when we have a $5 million project, I just want to make sure we complete it correctly, even if it meant that we had to go over budget by $10 or something.
Well, can I make
within reason.
another quick comment? Just watching that thing every single day, 4 or 5 times a day, driving in and out of my driveway, that thing it's beautiful. I loved seeing the fences coming down yesterday. That was the best part of the whole project. Seeing those, it looked like a prison already. Even though the prison's inside of it, it looked like a prison outside, but that thing's, it's gonna be, I can't wait for the landscaping.
Great.
We'll make a motion on that.
You have a comment, question? The audience, anyone? Member
Yeah, I
outside?
just, I probably scared Bill there for a little bit because, me and change orders don't go along too good, but this wasn't a change order. This was kind of an ad thing, so at least you didn't sweat on that one.
Vice Mayor.
I move to approve the scope revision of the public safety building and use the portion of the remaining unspent budget in an amount not to exceed $135,000.
Have a second by Councilwoman Kakavas. Any other discussion, comments?
Come back.
This time I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that pass 7-0. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks for
Cup.
the due diligence.
Next item is summary of current events. And look to council members on current events coming up. Councilmember Leach.
I want to jump in there before Mike, because he's got a pretty big list. I just want to thank everybody that came out to the 64th anniversary of the city of Show Low and our 5th annual barbecue throwdown, and let everybody know we are moving the facility to Frontier Field next year. Thank you.
Councilmember Alsop.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended a board meeting for Meals on Wheels and Senior Center. I just want to let everybody know, and especially I want to thank Councilman Leach for his help on this, and everything is, we voted for the NACOG contract that was awarded to Meals on Wheels, and we passed it with a 6-2 vote. So thank you very much for your help, and that would help our meals for the elderly people here in the city of Show Low and in the county and surrounding areas. One event that's coming up, I'd like to, Thursday, May 25th at 1:00 p.m. It's a party to celebrate Older Americans Month. The theme of this year's thing is Aging Out Loud. Refreshments, music, and fun, sponsored by Compass of the White Mountains. Music presented by Blue Tattoo Trio, and it's free and everybody's welcome. It's at the city center, and that's at 301 East McNeil. And if you have any questions or you'd like to ask more about it, you can call them at 532-0656. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other council members report? I'll just share a couple of items here. 10 of the League, Arizona League of Cities and Towns last Friday, and it's interesting as they kind of wrapped up the summary of the different bills that were before the House and some of the things that took place. There were some things that really, kind of happened as far as losing local control on items. One of the main provisions that hurt probably the cities and towns a lot was that we're unable to pass a tax to the citizens without it going to the vote of the citizens, and it can only happen on even years. So if we had an emergency for some reason, before we could just do it as a council and pass that. Now, under some special legislation, it's going to take a new election. And even if we held it during our regular election, we would have to have another election in November, because we couldn't do it during our regular council seating or something if it was satisfied in the primary election. So just extra cost passed on to the city and more little different control. The other thing that we have, I just want to thank people who attended the Martin Luther King Day of Service. We had over 200 volunteers show up to help with building a walking trail at the dog park. We cleaned up litter along White Mountain Road adjacent to the meadow and at Show Low Lake. It was a great turnout despite the wind, and we appreciate all those who gave generously of their time to help our community. And I hope that you'll take note of the new mowed area there in front of the area that we have out there in front of the trails that we have in our meadow that we have in our community. They worked hard today to mow that, and it just really looks good. And I just want to appreciate that we're stepping forward to keep our community looking great. Also, we have an Adopt a Street program. Any organization or group can adopt a street for maintenance for at least twice a year to pick up trash and debris along each side of the adopted roadway. And if you're interested, you can contact a coordinator at 532-4100. Thank you. I'm time the city manager for his report.
There's 3 weeks before the next council meeting, so we have several items to report, and a lot's going to be happening in the next 3 weeks. Our 19th annual Project Clean Sweep, which is our beautification program for Show Low residents, began yesterday with 2 weeks of dumping at the Green Waste Facility, Dirty Deeds at 890 Cinder Pit Road. Dirty Deeds will be open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. through this Saturday, and again next Monday, May 22nd to Saturday, May 27th. And any resident, again, can dump their green waste for free there. Then in June, from Monday, June 5th until Thursday, June 8th, we have our bulky item pickup for large items. That'll be on the regularly scheduled trash days. Also, Monday, June 5th through Saturday, June 10th, you can haul your own debris out to the Lone Pine Transfer Station from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Again, that's Monday through Saturday, June 5th through June 10th. To participate, you must present either a city utility statement showing current refuge service or a valid driver's license showing a physical address within the city limits. If you want more information on that program, you can call 532-4100. The Aquatic Center will close this Friday, just a reminder to the council and the public, at 4 p.m. and all day on Saturday for lifeguard training. We have to gear up for the summer season, and they have to train a lot of new lifeguards during this time of year, in the month of May every year. The pool will, again, it's closed Friday at 4 and all day Saturday, and will reopen Monday, May 22nd. You've seen quite a few public works projects going on in the city. Park Valley roads are being paved this week. The first phase of the water line improvement on the south side of the Deuce Clubs continues, and Penrod Road will be crack sealed starting next Monday, May 22nd, and it'll take until Thursday, June 1st on that project. Show Low Main Street's weekly Saturday Farmers Market and Art Walk begins May 27th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Festival Marketplace. They have over 70 vendors. It's the largest farmers market to date, and they're excited about the farmers market for this year every Saturday. And then the Show Low Chamber of Commerce 14th Annual Show Low Days kicks off Friday, June 2nd at 1 p.m. at the Show Low City Park. Friday's activities end at 10 p.m. Saturday's activities are at 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sundays are 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's an admission charge at the senior field for ages 9 and over, 10 and over for $1. This is an annual event that has many components. They have the Derby Down the Deuce on the Deuce of Clubs. They have a kids zone. They have food, craft, and product vendors and live entertainment. They have many companion events that go along with the Show Low Days. They have the city conducts its itty bitty Olympics during Show Low Days. There's a pancake breakfast and fly-in at the airport, Cruising the Rim car show at the Frontier Fields, and there's also the Verl Gillespie Memorial Roping Competition at Village Arena. There's, like I said, there's a number of events going on that weekend, June 2nd through 4th. And if you need more information on any of the events, you can call the chamber at 537-2326. Just a reminder, this is later in the month of June, but the country singer and songwriter Billy Dean will be performing a concert on Saturday, June 24th at 7:30 p.m. at the Show Low School District Auditorium. Tickets are on sale at City Hall. They're $15 each. And finally, for the 10th year in a row, our city was awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association for our comprehensive annual financial report for the year ending June 30th, 2016. We want to thank and congratulate our finance staff for the many hours of work they put in to accomplish this task, and it's a great thing for the city of Show Low. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Leach.
Just a quick comment on the Verl Gillespie roping. One of Verl's son, James, passed away, and condolences to them. So they're canceling the roping that week, and they're going to move it on to sometime in the summer.
Okay, thank you. We hadn't heard that.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, looking at scheduling of meetings. Does anybody have any meetings they want to schedule, bring up? Just remind you this year of our League of Cities in Tucson. It's coming up the 22nd of August. They'll be getting, I think you may have been called already. If you haven't, if you please get with Tamara or Ann, let them know your desires, because we'll be registering here next week to making rooms.
Just one meeting to remind the council of. On June 6th at 5:30, we'll have a study session where the consultant for the Convention Events Center will present their report. Again, that's June 6th at 5:30 here at the council chambers.
All right, seeing no other items, I'll adjourn this meeting.